Have you got your starting? Okay. No. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. I'm grateful to serve this congregation as minister. I'm echoing this morning. There's not enough people here. That's the problem. Grateful to serve this congregation as minister and grateful to see all of you here, whether you're here or up there in the ether or out in the pavilion. I am especially grateful for multiple reasons to have Stu Shelton with us this morning on the piano. As many of you know, Stu was with us for a year and a half before and during COVID, I think it was, and a little bit after. We're grateful he's here for his own sake, but also because he was able to join us when Abby Allison came down sick yesterday. So we send our best to Abby if she's watching. Probably not. No, Sean says. But anyway, thank you, Stu, for being here and for bringing your talents here as well. I'm also grateful to have Cliff Wells as our worship associate this morning. Good morning to you. And I'll turn the welcome over to you.
Okay. Are we good? Okay, great. Sorry. So, good morning and welcome to this glorious weekend that we have. It's a holiday weekend, of course, and we're all going to enjoy that, particularly in this fine weather. So whether you're here in the sanctuary, watch us on Facebook Live at home, or sitting out in the pavilion, we'll always welcome you, and we're certainly glad to have you today. Here we learn and grow together and try to take what we've learned and live our values out in the public. If you're new to our congregation, we are especially grateful you found us. Please join us for coffee and conversation after the service out on the pavilion. Our hope is to make you feel welcome, and hope that you always feel welcome to connect with all of us. If you'd like to find out more about our congregation or about Unitarian Universalism, please feel free to come forward after the service and talk to Tony or myself, and we can connect you with Anna and get that process started. Now let's take a deep breath and settle ourselves into this time of worship with the morning's prelude.
This is our day, a single day, a day like no other in our lives. It is a day we can make or mar, that we can spend wisely or waste foolishly, that we can give or hoard. Each day is like that, a blessing from who knows where, a gift from those who came before, a gesture from a universe whose origin and destiny we know not. Awakened from sleep to a day untouched, we've been granted the miracle of miracles, a piece of time, minutes of opportunity, moments of promise. Let's join together in the chalice lighting words you'll find on your order of service or on the screen. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, which is number 128 in the gray hymnal. The words will be on the screen. For all that is our life.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, which services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Tomorrow, as we all know, is Memorial Day. It was first called Decoration Day, and it had its roots in the aftermath of our bloody Civil War. As many as 25 cities in both the North and the South claimed to be the first to celebrate the holiday. In March of 1866, Columbus, Georgia set aside April 26th as the Confederate Memorial Day, a day to wreathe the graves of martyred dead with flowers. In many southern states, this is still celebrated. In Waterloo, New York, businesses were closed and flags were flown at half-staff on May 5th, 1866. Memorial Day was declared a national holiday by an act of Congress over 105 years ago. However, the very earliest commemoration was by blacks in Charleston, South Carolina, in April of 1865. The city was in ruins, most of the white population had fled, and the 21st U.S. Colored Infantry Regiment had marched into the city that spring to be greeted by thousands of former slaves who lived there. In the final years of the war, Confederates had converted the city's racetrack into an outdoor prison, and at least 250 Union soldiers had died there from exposure and disease. They were buried in a mass grave behind the grandstand. A small group of black workmen reburied the dead, built a whitewashed fence around the cemetery, and named it Martyrs of the Racecourse. On May 1st of that year, 10,000 Charlestonians, many former slaves, paraded around that racecourse, led by 3,000 black children carrying flowers and singing John Brown's Body. They were followed by 300 black women from the Patriotic Association, carrying baskets of flowers, wreaths, and crosses to the burial ground. Next came the black men from the Mutual Aid Society, then the large crowds of white and black citizens. At first, only the Civil War dead were memorialized, but after more than 116,000 Americans died in World War I, the war to end all wars, Memorial Day broadened to include them. The 1915 poem In Flanders Field introduced the poppy as a symbol of remembrance, and poppies were sold to provide aid to the children orphaned by the war. Poppies continue to be sold by the American Legion on Memorial Day. But World War II claimed another 405,000 lives, and then was followed by the Korean, the Vietnam, the Persian Gulf, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Thus, we now honor all those who have sacrificed their lives for our nation, while at the same time praying for and working toward peace worldwide. In light of these harsh realities, it might be wise to consider an etiquette for this day. So I offer the following, which comes from different sources. This is things not to do on Memorial Day. Don't wish anyone a happy Memorial Day. It's absolutely do honor America's fallen on this Memorial Day, but this isn't Christmas, and it isn't happy. Memorial Day was established in 1868 as the way for the country to set aside time to honor troops who have given their lives in sacrifice of America and for no one else. Visit or decorate graves, fly your flag, meditate on how fortunate we are to have surviving generations who have been promoted by brave and protected by brave and generous thousands over the centuries. 2, don't thank current troops for their service, because tomorrow is Memorial Day. Our surviving troops deserve respect and gratitude every day of the year, but this day is set aside specifically for America's fallen warriors from every American war. America's veterans are honored during November on Veterans Day, and when we aim to remember and appreciate the sacrifices of all veterans, living or dead, and their families, an important distinction from tomorrow's remembrances. 3, don't disregard its importance. Though retail discounts abound this weekend for nearly everything from cars to pools and mattresses, this holiday isn't about bargains. If that's your focus, you will allow the true meaning to become lost. Grill that delicious steak, find a perfect item on sale, but at dinner time, please raise your glass or toast and honor all of those servicemen and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice for us and their Constitution. A few respectful words to your family or dinner companions will help everyone reflect on the true purpose of the holiday. 4, don't let politics keep you from rendering respect. Even if you disagree vehemently with the idea of war, or the many reasons we have gone to war in the past, or the politics and diplomacy of any sitting president or former president and their Congress, it doesn't matter on Memorial Day. American servicemen and women have defended the hope of freedom and the ideal of constitutional republic for almost 250 years. They have made the ultimate sacrifice so that this great experiment can continue and all citizens can experience a nation free from authoritarian rule. As Unitarian Universalists who affirm the dignity and worth of every person, who promote the use of the democratic process in our congregations and in society at large, and to believe in the strength and power of a pluralistic society, we honor those sacrifices and pledge to do what we can to uphold that vision so that our precious democracy does not perish.
Let's remain seated. Bring him, Blessed Spirit of My Life. It's number 86 in the gray hymnal.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity. Fill me with a vision. Clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
Today, during our time of joys and sorrows, we offer you this place, this time to express your remembrances through the lighting of a candle. We have begun by lighting our chalice, a symbol of our community, symbol of Unitarian Universalism and the freedom of faith that we are given. I will also light a candle for each of our members who have died in the last year plus since the beginning of 2023. Their names are printed on the back of your order of service in alphabetical order. Maureen Armour, Flo Beckler, Richard Caden, David Dobler, Tom Eddy, Bill Green, Dave Griffith, Jim Teberek, Bill Von Segern, Nora Wojcik, Jeff Yeager. In addition, I invite our worship associates to come forward to light 4 additional candles of remembrance. We will light one for our grief, one for our courage, one for our memories, and one for our love.
This candle represents our grief. We own the pain of losing loved ones, of dreams that go unfulfilled, of hopes that evaporate in despair.
This candle represents our courage. It symbolizes the courage to confront our sorrow, to comfort each other, to share our feelings honestly and openly with each other, and to dare to hope in the midst of pain.
This candle represents our memories for the times that we laughed together, cried together, were angry with each other, or overjoyed with each other. We light this candle for the memories of caring and joy that we shared together.
This candle represents our love, the love we have given and the love we have received, the love that has gone unacknowledged, and unfelt, and the love that has been shared in times of joy and in sorrow.
I invite anyone who wishes to come forward and take a light from any of these 4 candles to light a votive for your own remembrances. It could be for an individual or for the many who have died in service to our nation. It could be for personal grief or sorrow that you're carrying this morning. It could be for a joy in acknowledging the gifts of loved ones that remain with you in your life. It could be a candle for your struggles to find that quality of love in someone who is gone. Should you wish to do so when you light a candle, you may speak a name or a sorrow or a joy out loud, and then return to your seat in silence, remaining so until all who have wished to have lit a candle. Our candle lighting ritual. Let's join now in the spirit of meditation. Spirit of life and love, God of our deepest understanding. In the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They, too, were strengthened by what had gone on before. They, too, were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice, have not melted into the dust. They have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them, choose the deeper path of living. We think we get over things. We don't get over things. Or say, we get over the measles, but not great loss or trauma. We need to make that distinction. The things that become part of our experience never become less a part of our experience. How can I say it? The way to get over a life is to die. Short of that, you move with it. Let the pain be the pain, not in the hope that it will vanish, but in the faith that it will fit in. Find its place in the shape of things. And then, not any less pain, but true to form. Because anything natural has an inherent shape, as natural as a leaf. That's what we're looking for. Not the end of a thing, but the shape of it. Wisdom is seeing the shape of your life without obliterating, getting over a single instant of it. I'll Be Seeing You was one of those tunes of the great band era that resonated so much with those who went off to war. It was written in 1938, but didn't become popular until 1944, when Bing Crosby made it to #1. I'm sure it was on the mind of many soldiers who sailed across the Atlantic to join in a common goal of helping to end a terrible war that had ravaged the world. My uncle, Gene Bossy, was one who survived, but always remembered. He was a bright but somewhat quiet boy who grew to be a tall, slim, muscular young man with an infectious grin who starred in track at Boston Latin High School. By the time he graduated in 1942, the United States had been at war for 6 months, and the Allies were still trying hard to find a viable strategy to combat the Axis forces. Gene entered Dartmouth College that fall, but by the end of his freshman year in June of 1943, he readily responded to the call of the U.S. Army. like most of the boys of his family in that generation, he wore glasses. And too proud to be classified 4F for bad eyes, he memorized the eye chart beforehand and passed. After basic training, Gene was assigned to the 106th Infantry Division, a newly formed division known as the Golden Lions, stationed at Camp Atterbury in Indiana. And by the time Gene had sailed to England in late October of 1944 on board the converted British liner HMS Aquitania, he had just turned 20 years old, had been made a radio operator, and promoted to corporal. The units spent a short time in England, and afterwards, the very young Golden Lions, with an average age of 22 years old, landed at Le Havre in France on their way to the front line in Belgium. The cold, drizzling rain fell as the GIs piled into open trucks bound for the front line. Along the way, people appeared and smiled, waved, and made the victory symbol with their hands. The GIs replied. Gene and his unit arrived at the Belgian town of St. Vith, where headquarters was, and it was also their assembly point. And late on the 10th of December, 1944, the untested unit reached the front line in the muddy, snow-draped Ardennes to relieve a veteran outfit, man for man and foxhole for foxhole. The sector had been named the Ghost Front, a place where the commanders sent fresh troops to be steeled for real combat later on. Unfortunately, headquarters had grossly misinterpreted what lay ahead in just a few days for these fledgling soldiers. Gene's division was deployed sparsely along a 25-mile front that included a snow and tree-covered ridge northeast of Luxembourg called the Schnee Eifel, a winter wonderland not unlike places Gene had seen in New England. More seasoned soldiers knew it as a vulnerable area, jutting out a bit into Germany and adjacent to the infamous Siegfried Line. These young and already tired young men, soaked to the skin from the continuous sleet, were not aware that a massive German force would soon overrun them in less than a week. Before sunrise on December 16th, the calm of the pending Christmas season exploded in an unexpected, massive onslaught of the German artillery, tanks, and infantry. It was the opening attack of what would later be called the Battle of the Bulge, the largest land battle of World War II. The Germans' immediate goal was the taking of St. Vith, a connecting point of rail and road, but the larger German objective was to move quickly and take the port of Antwerp to stem the flow of Allied supplies to the front lines and buy time to prepare a better defense of the homeland. They had picked the December timeframe to attack to ensure that inclement weather would inhibit the probability of the critical need for air power support on the Allied side. The young combat green Americans, lacking adequate winter equipment, including proper boots, faced a German force consisting of predominantly seasoned warriors. 2 days after the beginning of this barrage, Gene was ordered to get a message to headquarters. After he and his Jeep driver had reached the designated telephone pole, Gene climbed to the top and prepared to tap into the line. Unfortunately, through the fog and gloom emerged German panzer tanks accompanied by troops dressed in white. They told Gene to come down or be shot. Fortunately, they just didn't shoot on sight. For Genie, December 8th, 2 days after the German attack on a foggy, rainy day in the coldest winter of 40 years, the humiliation and personal hell of being a prisoner of war had begun. The next day, on December 19th, the commanders of the two encircled Golden Lions units surrendered to the Germans to prevent a slaughter of their troops. Vastly outnumbered, with little ammunition or food left, their ranks had been decimated by the incessant shelling. And with no help in sight from promised airdrops, the war was over for this unit. They had been on the continent for 17 days, on the front lines for 7. In the final analysis, however, the Lion Division disrupted the timing of the German offensive just enough for other troops to come in and fill in behind to eventually turn the tide of battle. In those opening days of the Battle of the Bulge, the German onslaught swept up some 20,000 Americans. Between 8,000 and 9,000 Golden Lions became prisoners of war, were marched 50 miles or so, and then loaded on cars to the Stalags in more central Germany. At least those who were not executed after being captured. Unknowingly, along the route, Allied fighters repeatedly strafed the trains, and many POWs were killed along with their enemy guards. Once in camp, the Germans segregated Jean and the other prisoners by rank. And with the gravity of their situation beginning to sink in, many of the weary and demoralized Golden Lions took the time to slowly pull apart those wonderful badges that they'd been given just a year beforehand. If they were lucky, they were fed thin, watery soup made from grass or potatoes and crude, stale black bread. My uncle, like most POWs, lost nearly 40 pounds that he didn't have to lose before being liberated 4 months later. Frozen feet, diarrhea, lice, and general malnutrition caused severe hardships among these beleaguered captives, and Jean had the worst Christmas of his life. His family had an even worse Christmas, not knowing what had happened to their son. And just before the new year, Jean's parents received a telegram to express the war secretary's great regret that their son, Jean, had been reported missing in action since the 18th of December. If further details or other information are received, you will be promptly notified, period. It took another month and another telegram before Jean's parents knew that he was captive in a German prisoner of war camp. He later told his sister Barbara that the POWs had built a clandestine radio from smuggled parts, and it gave them hope because they were able to hear that the Allies had, in fact, turned the tide of the battle and were moving towards them to the east. And Jean Stalag was liberated on Good Friday, March 30th, 1945. The POWs, once boys, now men, wept openly and hugged their American liberators. It was a day that Jean would live with always. And we can only imagine the cascade of emotions that swept through that camp at the sight of those liberators. And later, when they finally arrived back in the United States, many of those soldiers couldn't or wouldn't talk about what they had done and what they had seen. With time, my Uncle Gene told his family, especially his sister Barbara, more about his experiences. But after that, he kept a lot of those horrors to himself, finding that the best therapy was to be as fully alive as he could be and in the moment. Gene finished his time at Dartmouth and became a doctor and devoted his life to the health of young students. He married my mother's youngest sister, Betty, and together they moved to San Francisco and raised 2 boys. He learned to sail, wrote a column for the student newspaper called Dr. Bossie's Bag, and understanding the realities of war, marched along with the students to protest Vietnam. I remember him fondly as someone with a great smile who brought great energy every time we were together as a family. Someone to be looked up to admire. At the end of many of our services, we hold here to celebrate a life. We often say our task is to keep that person alive in our memories and to consider how we might move forward with our own lives, inspired by the lessons they taught through their living. Thus, as we consider over this weekend the loss of those who have sacrificed their lives in service to our nation, our responsibility is not to say a few words in their memory and then return to our daily rounds, whatever they may be. Our responsibility is to stop and consider what those sacrifices mean to us, what we might make of them as individuals, whether we are pacifists or believe that wars can be considered just. Our responsibility is to remember that the freedoms we enjoy and the democracy with which we have been entrusted have all come at a price, and therefore to make a commitment to pay it forward, to do what we can to expand on the opportunities we ourselves have been granted so that the next generations may enjoy them to a far greater extent. Each of us is formed through our interactions with the people we have known and know, and with those who come daily into our lives. In many ways, we are a reflection of all those people, of all that we have been taught, of all that we have experienced, all we have witnessed, with all our joys and sorrows present, with all that history in front of us and behind us. We shape our lives through the choices we make. My Uncle Gene was no more remarkable than many of his generation. He was one of the ones that made it through after experiencing firsthand the horrors of war, and he never forgot. And somehow still, putting the pieces back together and answering the question for himself as he was given the opportunity to do. How will I take all of this and shape this new life I have been given? On Memorial Day, we are called to do much the same, to stop and remember, to grieve, to find within our sorrow the courage to move forward in hope and in love. No easy task, but the only way to create a fitting memorial to those we have lost, to create the peace and build the world they and we hope for. I often say at the beginning of our joys and sorrows that we come together in community to enjoy the blessings of each other. And we do this in many different ways, one of which is to express our gratitude for one another through our giving. The morning's offering for the ongoing mission of this congregation will be gratefully received. Just a couple of reminders. One is that here in Florida, hundreds of thousands of hardworking adults do not have access to life-saving health care, and that can change. A ballot initiative will allow Floridians to decide if Medicaid should be expanded in this state. Petitions to sign are out in our lobby, and I don't know if they'll be out in the pavilion or not after the service. In the lobby. Like the petition drive for Amendment 4, this congregation will be a hub to collect signed petitions. After the service today, if anyone is interested, we will have a RUUU orientation. Come down to the front after the service and let me know if you're interested, and we'll find a place to meet. We do this once a month at the last Sunday of every month, so I hope you'll join us. And now let's rise and body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, number 159 in the Gray Hymnal, "This Is My Song."
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. This country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
A single day, a day like no other in our lives. It is a day we can make or mar, that we can spend wisely or waste foolishly, that we can give or hoard. Each day is like that, a blessing from who knows where, a gesture from a universe whose origin and destiny we know not. Awakened from sleep to a day untouched, we've been granted the miracle of miracles, a piece of time, minutes of opportunity, moments of promise. Go in peace. Go in love. Have a wonderful day.